here to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've been seeing in the media over the last week or so. We had four mass shootings over the last week. And some of you probably don't understand why I say four, and I'll explain why. We'll go through them real quick. Mississippi, the state of Mississippi experienced a shooting at a Walmart in South Haven. Uh, Suspect killed two, got into a shootout with the police, and that was a very tragic event. But we didn't hear a lot about it. It was kind of grazed over, and I suspect the reason why is because it didn't have all that to do with race. We'll move forward. And then next, we of course know about El Paso, a very, very tragic situation where the death toll is now at 22, and this one received a lot of coverage almost immediately. Political figures started to jump on the race bandwagon and point fingers at the president and said it was the president's fault why these things happen. And of course, then next we have the unfortunate situation in Dayton, Ohio, where a shooter targeted um, uh, folks in the evening hours of Saturday evening, early Sunday morning, killed 9 people, injured a bunch of other people. Um, he was taken out by the police, so thank God they were able to act quickly on that one as well. But in this situation, once again, it hadn't reached the level of notoriety or coverage due to the fact that race cannot be listed as one of the reasons why, and that's unfortunate. And then last, um, some may classify this as a mass shooting, but in my opinion, one of the worst mass shootings was over the weekend in Chicago, Illinois. We had 7 people killed, 52 wounded by gunfire throughout Chicago. Early Sunday morning, 17 people were shot in a period of 2 hours. Um, 32 separate shooting incidents throughout the weekend, police said. And in one situation, a 5-year-old caught a stray and was killed in Chicago. That's four situations where we have gun violence ripping through the American core. And here's what we can't do. We have to be careful what we put on mental health. We can't put the whole blame on mental health. And if we do, we can't legislate in a form that we force mental health to be coupled with gun control, because we want them to do it, and it comes down to privacy. So when people feel like if they get a mental health evaluation, it could affect their gun rights, then we're gonna have a problem there. So we have to be careful on what we blame on mental health and how we create and couple legislation with mental health. Because once again, I repeat, it's built on privacy. And so if people think they're gonna lose their gun rights, they're not gonna go get mental health assessments because they don't want the government looking at them and saying, "Hey, you got diagnosed with certain mental health issues and you can't buy a gun." And once again, that's a step closer to infringement. And so we have to be careful how we approach that. Um, we have to be careful that we don't continue to blame the president and make this a race thing. Uh, in one case, it was racial. In one case, we don't quite know. In one case, we know it was gun violence due to workforce violence, and then in the last case, it was just gangland overload. And so what we can't do is we can't start creating laws that ban guns, because we know that in many of these places there are strict gun laws. Chicago, for example, has strict gun laws, weapons ban. Weapons bans are in place, and So we have to be careful how we legislate this issue. And once again, there's some things that we can do and some things that we cannot do, but there's a reason why we're here. We got here for a reason. And what we've done was we simultaneously taken God out of our school system and taken God and the Ten Commandments and all these things away, and we've simultaneously infused a culture of violence, and we've desensitized our youth. And so we'll show them violence, we'll show them sex, we'll show them video games, we'll give them an overload, but in return, you can't pray in school, and you shouldn't know about the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not kill.
State.
Our nation was founded on the principles found in the Ten Commandments.
From Sky 5 this morning, a view of the vacant patch of land at the Capitol where the monument stood since 2012. Despite efforts to keep it on Capitol grounds, the Oklahoma Supreme Court ruling it unconstitutional.
And instead, we've given them a way to mock killing. And so now, all of a sudden, killing becomes nothing. It's not even a sin anymore because we've taken it out of schools. We've taken it away from the courthouses. We can't even post the Ten Commandments, and that's the very basic foundation of what we know. But we don't want religion around because we said religion controls people. Well, this is why we have a situation where we're now. We beefed up the exposure on negative, dehumanizing things, and in return, we've pulled back the one true measure of accountability that we have in our lives in this country, and that's God. And because of that, we suffer. And the young men suffer especially because we give them access to guns, we give them access to video games, we give them access to violent TV shows, we give them access to violent music, and then we leave them alone, we walk away from them, we turn our backs on them and say, learn how to be a man. Well, if the music is teaching you how to be a man, and Call of Duty is teaching you how to be a man, there's a false reality in front of you that you're being raised by. And as a young, impressionable male, I know too well how that can go wrong. So, once again, we've managed to desensitize our youth, simultaneously pull back religion and accountability, i.e. removal of the Ten Commandments from certain places, removal of prayer, removal of the one true accountability mechanism that we've always had as Americans, and we've made it okay to worship violence, in essence. And then, lastly, the politicians these days use race. And this really bothers me because there is no secret racist society. People are who they are. You can travel America, and if you want racism, you can find racism. People who are racist, they don't play games about it. There's no secret, systematic approach to it, and we need to stop running from that ghost. And when we continue to fall victim to this race game, then once again we lose out on what we should be paying attention to. For example, the El Paso shooting was tragic, no doubt. But the shootings in Chicago were tragic. The shooting in Mississippi was tragic. The shooting in Ohio was tragic. But El Paso gets the coverage because El Paso, out of the gate, was talked about with the president being racist. And no matter how much he denounces this, we still see the pattern playing out over and over again. And I'll take it a step further with Beto O'Rourke. They asked him, did he think the president was a white nationalist?
Accusation. Do you agree with that? Do you think President Trump is a white nationalist?
Yes, I do. And again, from some of the record that I just
received. Are you kidding me? Are you really in this game to stoke that type of fear and work that angle to get votes? People tell me, Joe, you pandering to get votes. That's why you saying this stuff. I don't care about votes. I really don't. I ain't running for nothing right now. Don't know if I'll run again. That's not something that's really my focus. My focus is speaking my mind and letting people know. And for some reason, people feel like if you speak your mind, you must be brainwashed or you must be doing it for the votes. It is what it is. There's people out here lying to you. Beto O'Rourke is a racist. All he talks about is race. The man is obsessed with race. He's the racist, not the president. Because you look at the president, what he did. The Virginia Black Caucus didn't want to meet with the president. What did he do? He met with black leaders.
Of course, absolutely. I think it should. I think it would be good. That was not on the agenda today.
What's the president's message to you?
I think he did more listening than talking. And no, it was not a photo op. It was 2 hours of discussion. That's not a photo op. Pardon? We discussed the issues facing the black community.
And listen to him and talk to him. But the media won't show you that. The media will just show you racism and blame this on the president. So that's something else we can't do. If we want to fix this problem, we need to reel back in our young men, stand firm on the laurels that we were standing firm on when this country was one whole united country. And people say, oh, when was that? That never was. Yes, it was. And the notion that it wasn't is sickening, because we know for a fact we don't divide the water fountains anymore. There's not a color in a white water fountain. There's not a color go around back sign. So don't tell me that racism is worse than it's ever been, because I know for a fact that's not the case. That's people hyperbolizing racism, using it for political gain, and then using it to control people and install fear into people, and that's just wrong. People don't make people don't disguise the fact that they're racist. If they don't like you, they're going to let you know they don't like you, and they're going to do everything they can. If people, the president is racist. Why? Show me one thing that the president did that was racist. What did the president do that was racist? Oh, because he said that. Because he said? That's another thing, too, that we've done. We on one hand, giving our children access to hate and violence, but then on the other hand, we've made them sensitive and intolerant to the point where if you say something to them, they all offended or hurt and bent out of shape. They don't respect authority because they feel like, oh, if you told me something or if you corrected me, then you must be disrespecting me. No! And I'm going to go back to it. I don't know why I'm preaching tonight, but even the Bible says you're a fool if you can't take correction. And that's another thing, too. We can't even correct the kids no more. You tell them something, they get bent out of shape, get all offended. That's the new thing. I'm offended. President said this about medicine. I'm offended. Come on now. And I'm not trying to trivialize race, and in no form or fashion am I trying to downplay the violence that this country witnessed just this week alone, last week alone. And I do put Chicago in that, because once again, when you read things like shootings and homicides have decreased in 2019, but there have been at least 300 homicides this year in Chicago and 1,600 people shot. That's a mass shooting every day. And all the gun laws in the world ain't gonna stop that. And all the racial talk in the world ain't gonna stop that. The president's words didn't make Chicago so hot this last weekend. In the midst of other mass shootings, we had mass shootings going down in a city that always has this type of issue. On any given weekend, you can look at Chicago and see these type of mass shootings. I didn't even look at my hometown of Orlando. I bet they mass shooting. Let me look at Orlando right now. I bet they shooting up something down there right now. I know too many people that I've lost. Orlando and West Palm Beach. Let me see.
The shooter in El Paso posted a manifesto online consumed by racist hate. In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. These sinister ideologies must be defeated. Hate has no place in America. Hatred warps the mind, ravages the heart, and devours the soul.